Hey everybody, welcome back to Gideon Stuff. Today, we're finally taking a look at the Bestech Sledgehammer. I say finally because it's actually taken me a long time to do this review because it took me a long time to put my thoughts together on this knife. It really did. But I think I'm all composed now. I think I know what this knife is all about. And, yeah. Let's get right into this with our size comparisons. First of all, as always, the knives that need no introduction. The Ontario Rats. So as you can see here, the Sledgehammer's not a huge knife, which we will talk about because, we'll talk about that. In fact, right now is a good time to take a blade length measurement. It's actually a good bit under 3 inches. That's at the thumb set, I guess. If we come all the way back down to here, I mean, if you come down all the way there, you could maybe make an argument for over 3 inches, but to the near spot on the scales, 3 inches exactly. So yeah, not a huge knife whatsoever. Okay, let's put the rats away. Let's bring out our Civivis. The Elementum. And the Praxis. Again, Sledgehammer is not terribly huge at all, which is kind of interesting. Bring out our flagship comparisons. That's the Spyderco PM2. Benchmade bug out. Not big at all. And because we have to, our Gerbers, the paraframe couple. There we go. And let's bring out some Bestechs to compare against. First of all, here's the Lion. And the Paladin. Two knives from Bestech that I really, really love. Another Bestech Tanto. Kind of a different Tanto, though. And there's our Bestech Penguin. Our Bestech Swordfish. Okay, so there's how big that guy is. So what are we looking at as far as materials are concerned? We're looking at a D2 blade, satin finished, with a compound Tanto blade. I like how, we'll get into that later. Here we have these green micarta scales. Pretty cool. Steel liner lock, steel clip. Yeah. Pretty straightforward. It's on ceramic ball bearings, the ceramic detent, and it's a thumb stud opener. So, let's go do some cutting and stuff, shall we? Alright, let's talk a little bit about the performance of the Bestech Sledgehammer. Let's start off with some slicing on just some cardboard pieces I have left over. I should have recorded some footage of me doing other things like opening packages with a Tanto tip, or something I like to do with Tantos if you have zip ties on like wood. You can push down on them like that. This knife does that really well. But as far as slicing goes, it's not bad either. yeah, no problems. Satin blade, gonna need a little bit of cleaning up, but that's what you get with satin blades. How's the action? It's just, oh, it's buttery smooth. We'll talk about the action more in depth at the table, but it is a very smooth action. Ergos are perfectly acceptable. Perfectly acceptable. You can kind of choke up in here if you want to. That choil is a little bit big. As you saw, it did get caught in this couple of cuts. I do kind of wish it was a little bit smaller. We'll talk about that more at the table again. How's it carry? Non-reversible clip. The clip is recessed into the scales, but the screws are button screws. However, it goes in really nice, comes out nice, so you can't complain about it, right? Yeah. I think Bestech makes great clips. This is a really nice clip. I do wish the screws were flat, but it is a really nice clip. The knife itself is short. It's kind of chunky, but not super chunky. There's no flipper tab. Folds up very nicely. Not a hard object to carry. All right. Let's go. Let's head back to the table. Okay, so let's get into what I like and don't like about the Bestech Sledgehammer. This could be a roller coaster. Let's start off with the likes. So I think this knife looks really, really good. It's a very different looking knife. This Tanto blade shape is different. Maybe I better clean that blade off. It's kind of gross. Might be distracting some of you from the beautiful sound of my voice. I think that's about as good as we're going to get it. Sand finishes. We'll get on to that. Okay, so, yeah, it looks good. It's very different looking, and I appreciate that. It's really interesting. And, yeah. Next thing, the action. Oh, my gosh. This has got to be the smoothest thumb stud budget knife I have ever felt. And yes, that is even counting my beloved CJRB Feldspar. This is just amazingly smooth. Incredible. Wow. All right. Next thing, this micarta. I like this. I really do. It's kind of grippy. It's green. You can get a bunch of different versions of this knife, by the way. That's another good thing. Coated blades, non-coated blades. Several different colors of micarta, and then orange G10, I think is... Maybe there's a couple of other G10 options. I don't know. But, yeah. It's got some grip to it. It looks decent. I would say that this micarta is better than Civivi's, but not as good as the stuff Kaiser uses. So if I had to give it a letter grade, it'd be a solid B, which, yeah, it's not bad. Next thing I like, the sharpening choil is well done. Bestech does good sharpening choils. You see, there's where the plunge grind ends, and you got all that to sharpen. The blade itself is nice. I measured, it's a flat grind, pretty much a full flat grind. There's a little bit right there, but pretty much a full flat grind. About 15 thousandths behind the edge here, so nice and thin. About 25 thousandths behind the edge up at the tip. So, very strong tip, which, let's talk about. Tantos have a place in EDC. They really do. I'm not the biggest Tanto guy. I'm really not. But I do tend to enjoy Bestech Tantos for some reason. Heck, the Paladin, I love this Tanto. And I really like the way Bestech does their Tantos. How they have a very defined grind difference, which you can't tell because, again, my blade's all dirty. But yeah, you can see that right there, the way the light dances off of it. So, yeah, I like that. As far as functionality goes, you can get your tip here under like tape on boxes. You can use it for utility cuts. Having this a little more rounded, for me, introduced kind of some new possibilities of different cuts I could do. For example, I've always thought Tantos were really useful for, kind of chiseling stuff, which this can still do. But this gives you a little more agility while chiseling. which is a weird thing to say. Another thing it's good at is, sometimes I cut a lot of zip ties or pallet straps that, they're on wood or something. So tanto you can push down on it. With this, I found it really nice because you can not only push down, but you can like do these rocking cuts on it. So if it's being a little bit stubborn, instead of just pushing down as hard as you can, you can get a little more leverage by pushing forward a little bit more. So yeah, this blade shape is actually, I found it to be fairly useful. There are some things that I did not like about it. Puncturing tasks, this is not very good at all. But yeah, you have a nice thin blade, right here, nice thin cutting edge for slicing and those kind of utility cuts. And then if you have to cut something a little more heavy duty or do something kind of stupid with your knife, you have a nice stout tip, which, by the way, let's look at that. Yeah, it's a nice stout tip. So I like that. Next thing, the ergos. The ergos are not amazing, like, jump on top of your house and scream to the world, these ergos are the best. But they're also good. Yeah, your finger goes here and it locks you in, and there you are. I can kind of use this choil. Some people might not be able to. I can kind of use it. We'll talk about that choil later, but yeah, you can grip the knife like this. It's very comfortable. You can have a little hump right there, get your finger on. In fact, when I use a choil, that's what I do, is I kind of hook this and pull backwards almost. But yeah, very, very comfortable like that. Grip it like this for different cuts. So yeah, that's nice. Next thing, access to the liner doesn't look like it's good, but it is. So yeah, no problems there. Next thing, they have this little lanyard tube thing in the back. That's cool. On a knife this small, trying to stick a lanyard hole somewhere would have been a little bit, would have led to some issues, I think. But, doing this is a great way to appease lanyard people. I'm not sure if you'd be able to get paracord in there. In fact, I really doubt it. But, maybe lanyard people know tricks that we don't. That I don't. Good centering out of the box. Fit and finish was pretty nice. The clip. Let's talk about the clip and the overall way this knife carries. It's pretty light. As you can see, it is skeletonized in there. Where's my flashlight? Here he is. Yeah, we've got skeletonization in there. And also a lot of dirt. But yeah, pretty lightweight knife. At least by my standards. I'm someone that doesn't really care that much about weight. But pretty light. The way it folds up, very, very slender. Let's find what's a good knife here to compare fatness against. Here's the PM2. You can see that it is actually a little bit fatter than PM2. Interesting. Doesn't feel that way. But it does carry very nice. And the clip. I think Bestech makes great clips. This is a nice clip. It looks pretty good. In the hand, I don't feel it at all. And it does hold the knife in your pocket really well. We'll come back to the clip here in a little bit, but yeah. There we go. The next thing I want to talk about with this knife is this knife had some kind of magical... Every time I saw this knife, I wanted to put it in my pocket and take it somewhere. And I was always like, why? But it hopped in my pocket a lot, so... Okay, so... yeah. Enchantments of this knife aside, what am I not liking so much? Well, let's start with some things that are just kind of neutral bad. So you can see that when they dyed this micarta, there's a little bit of a dye line left over. That doesn't really bother me. It might bother some people. That's gonna vary from knife to knife, so I hesitate to even include it, but there we go. One thing I want to talk about is the decorative pivot that Bestech uses, their B. My girlfriend always says it looks like a grumpy face. Eyes and little, like, mouth just straight across there. So, whatever. On to actual complaints. These thumb studs, as you can see, they're like cone-shaped. They can be a little bit sharp sometimes. Yeah, see, it left kind of a little bit of a thing on my thumb. A little bit sharp sometimes. Yeah, owie. If you get them like right on the top, ouch, that does kind of hurt. But yeah, nah, a little bit sharp. I'd like to see them maybe even use different thumb studs. I don't know. Who can say? Next, the pocket clip. While I think Bestech makes great clips, in fact, I like pretty much every Bestech clip I've tried, there are some things that they don't do that drive me nuts. Why not have flat screws in there? Now, this knife goes in and out of your pocket just fine. Just fine the way it is. I have no complaints there. It works. So functionally, I can't really complain about the button screws, but just looking at it, I wish they were flat. And I'm sure there's, I wear decently thick jeans, but I don't know. It might get caught on something. Great clip. Wish the screws were flat. And I wish it was reversible. Bestech does not like to do reversible clips. I guess they just hate left-handed people or something, but whatever. Next thing, I actually, while I was using this, the scale here came a little bit loose. You can see that moving around. I tried tightening down the screws, but it didn't really help the scale. Just kind of, listen. I'm not sure if you can hear that, but yeah, the scale definitely just does kind of wiggle around a little bit there. Only on that side, not on this side, but yeah, there's that. So now we have to go into the part of the video where I talk about why this knife was so hard for me to review, because I've had this knife for a long time. When I first heard about the Sledgehammer, I think I first heard about it on Stasa23's channel. And, no, actually I first heard about it because I just saw it on White Mountain Knives, and I thought, oh, that's cool. Then I saw it on Stasa23's channel, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. And then my good buddy Sharpened Blade got one, and he was showing it off, and I was like, okay, I should get one. So I got it, and I'd read the specs, I'd seen people use it, but when I opened it up, I was still like, this is a lot smaller than I thought. I thought Sledgehammer, it'd be like a 9-inch knife. And I know what you guys are saying. You're complaining about it because the name doesn't match the knife. Yes, I am. Welcome to the knife world. We're petty, or at least I am. Whatever. But, yeah. However, I started using it, started carrying it around the house, and I was like, there are a lot of things about this knife that I do kind of like. And like I said, every time I saw him in my knife drawer, as I was heading out the door or somewhere, I just wanted to slip him into my pocket. And I took him to work several times, which I don't like doing. We'll talk about this more later, because it's a bearing knife, and I work in a very dusty environment, and so I don't typically like to take bearing knives with me because I always have to clean them out, and it's just gross and stuff. But I kept taking this guy with me because something about this knife, to me, just felt extremely useful. And so I'd carry him, and there'd be certain tasks I'd encounter, cutting my apple at lunch, or, just making a simple cut, like I said, cutting zip ties and stuff, where I was like, yes, this is nice. And then we got to certain things like piercing tasks, where I realized that I just did not want this in my pocket at all. And we got to where, I like to choke up here, but I kept getting this choil caught in stuff I was cutting because you are a fair bit away from the edge here. So I kept getting the choil caught in things I was cutting, but I still kept carrying this knife, and I still like this knife a whole lot. But right now I want to bring out two other knives, because this knife really reminds me of a Tanto version of the Rat Model 2. And the other knife I want to bring out is the CJRB Mini Feldspar. this sledgehammer, in my opinion, sits between these two knives. What you have here, they're all three in that same 3-inch blade area. They're all thumb stud openers, and they're all kind of budgety knives. However, this feels like, holding this guy, the handle and blade feel like more of a hard use type. Well, more of a harder use type EDC, as hard use as a small EDC can be, which is kind of similar to the Rat 2. However, the bearings and the action makes it feel like it's more of an EDC, like the CJRB. And so for me, this knife falls in a place that's kind of hard for me to define. It's kind of in a place between hardish use and pure EDC. And I'll tell you something, I wish this knife had washers. I wish the Bestech Sledgehammer had washers, like the Rat 2. And that was honestly the biggest thing that I kept thinking about while I was carrying this knife, is I wish it was on washers. And the other thing I kept thinking was, I wish it was bigger. And so the whole time I was carrying this knife, people would sometimes ask me, what do you think of a Bestech Sledgehammer? And I'd say, oh, I really like it. But I would like it more if A, B, or C. Or I'd say, yeah, it's pretty cool, but I wish it had X, Y, Z. And that, to me, that was, carrying this knife feels like that. Like, this is nice. I like this. I like this a lot. But I wish it had this. And more than any other knife, every single knife I've ever owned has always had an element of, this is awesome, but it'd be nice if it had this. Or, this is awesome, I wish it didn't have that. However, for the most part, if I like the design of the knife enough, those are things that just gradually disappear. I've had this knife for about 2 months at this point. I've been carrying it a lot, using it a lot. And it still confuses me because I like this knife a lot. A lot. But the things that I wish it had are things that I really, really wish it had. So, yeah. This knife has left me very confused, honestly, more than any other knife that I've reviewed. And here's what I think I want. Bestech, if you're listening, I think we need a Sledgehammer XL. So make it a 4-inch blade. Keep it these exact same proportions. Don't like just stretch it out, make it thinner and everything. These exact proportions, this exact blade shape, because I think this blade shape is really cool in a hard use scenario. I do like this blade shape for certain things. And put it on washers, Bestech. Put it on washers. And if that happens, I think this would be one of my favorite knives ever. So, but, and even saying that, this action is just, let's see how it'll shake shut without me doing the slap. I mean, listen to that detent. It just gets sucked in there. What are my final conclusions on this knife? It is going to stick around in my collection. We haven't mentioned the price. $52, like most Bestechs. I think it's a good price. So we're not going to talk too much about that. But it is staying in my collection because I do like it. It looks different. It's very unique. I like that stuff. But at the same time, It's always going to be a little bit of a conundrum to me. And I guess I'm just going to have to deal with that. So, yeah. Those are my kind of conclusions. I hope you guys enjoyed. Like, comment, subscribe.